Okay, so I wanted to kind of summarize this discussion that we have been having over the last 11 odd weeks in the most generic way. If you recall, I had planned this quote unquote conversation with Sandy as the first session. And now I wanted to have a conversation with Malolan, Jaimini and Swami as the ending session, right? So that's how it is being planned. More of a discussion, more of general interest and how do we go from here kind of a discussion, not meant to be going deeper in one of the topics that we have discussed, right? That is essentially left for you to explore, for the participants of the course to explore. There is really never an end to any topic, right? We can go as deep as we can, and if you go deep enough, probably you will earn a PhD in that topic. So that's not the intention here. So intention is to discuss the overall kind of state of art in this broad area called business analytics, right? What we have done in this course is only cherry picked a few topics and talked about it in the most introductory way, right? So in that sense, it was more of an introductory course. Content-wise, there are enough resources available in the textbooks, even online resources are available. If you pick, for example, logistic regression, there are a lot of resources and extremely good resources that are available everywhere. Textbooks, lectures, online courses dedicated to logistic regression. So we can go to any depth. Idea was not to talk about logistic regression. Idea was to pick an application and run it through a logistic regression model, right? So this was only presented as a application of these analytics techniques to specific business problems. If we see a related business problem where such technique can be used, we should now be able to use it. We should now be able to understand the fundamentals. That was the intention of talking about these topics, right? But in general, we know that life never is easy, and problems don't come to us as a logistic regression problem, or problems don't come to us as a conjoint analysis problem. They don't come that way. We are solving a business problem, and idea is we should be able to apply the most appropriate technique for it, right? So any thoughts on this? So many times I have seen this, right? The downside of this is the opposite side of this is me becoming a logistic regression expert. And why do I say that it's a downside? Because then what will I end up doing is I will try to solve every problem using logistic regression. That's not the correct approach. Every business problem may need appropriate analytics technique to be used to solve. The idea is, can we do this correct matching? This is the problem, and this technique is the most appropriate technique to solve that problem. Can we make that connection, right? That's where the skill lies. Is that not correct?
Sir, just a small, let's say, a query from my end. So was this the reason why we saw visualizations in the beginning? Because visualizations are basically going to tell you what is the end result. So if you want such a result, then you can use such a technique. Could that be a link that we could have? Or not only presenting the information, but if I want some output, I could think about it in this sense, right? So this is the kind of output I want. If I want that output, mental visualizations, if I want that output, what technique will help me get that?
Absolutely.
Could that be a good justification for this?
Exactly. Yeah, that was the, see, if you recall Sandy's discussion when we discussed visualization, essentially what he focused on was asking the correct question, right? I may have data. What question I ask from the data essentially tells me what is the most appropriate technique. So yes, you're spot on. So visualization should help us understand what data do I have, how do I understand the data, and essentially what do I expect from this, right? Taking support from some of our discussions. For example, for conjoint analysis, we solved conjoint analysis. So we essentially solve the same conjoint analysis problem using different techniques, regression, optimization. So depending on what questions you have in mind, the data can be used in a particular technique, and those insights can be obtained, right? That's the idea. But once you, or even before you get the data, right? Even before you get the data, you have to have very clear objectives in mind. What is the objective? What business problem you are trying to solve here? So I would actually argue that even before data visualization, right? What data to collect should be guided by what questions do you have in mind. So in fact, I have had this experience where one of the firms, and they have this whole data available with them, and simply because they have the data available with them, they want to use that data. And I have difficult time convincing them that if this is the question that you wish to answer, column number C, D, J are not even required. And very difficult for them to get convinced. Say, I have data, why don't you use it? So that's the challenge. So even before visualization, right? Even before we visualize the data, we need to visualize, as you rightly pointed out, we need to visualize what do we expect from this exercise. And then data visualization can help me understand what kind of questions actually can be answered from the data that I have. And I mean, that should get matched to my objectives, right? So yes, completely agree with you. So yeah.
Does that mean that we should always have, let's say, the business knowledge about the problem that we are solving, or can I go into something and then learn it on the fly? Would that make sense? Or should I always have, let's say I'm going to solve a marketing problem. So I need to know the complete marketing domain before I start solving the problem. Or is it possible for me to say, okay, talk to the business, understand what they want, then learn it, come back to them? So which would be a better approach, or which would be ideal for, because this is a question that always comes in the mind of students.
I agree. So therefore, in my mind, and once again, we should ideally be talking to recruitment managers, but in my mind, this job title of business analyst, which is closest to the topic of our course, right? Business analytics should be used by business analysts. So in my mind, the business analyst is a person who needs to understand both the languages. They need to understand the language of business, and they need to understand the language of data science. So ideally, this person to me is a person who can talk business when they are talking to the marketing manager, and they should be able to talk statistics when they are talking to the data science manager, right? This is the bridge, right? The business analyst should be the bridge. So what should be the prerequisite knowledge? Well, I don't expect them to completely know marketing management. That's not the job of a business analyst. They should understand the basics of marketing management, and as you said, depth can be picked up as you go along, right? I mean, depending on the context, depending on the problem they are trying to solve, maybe they can learn some problem specific skills so that they can solve the problem effectively, right? On the other hand, should they know 100% statistics? No, that's not the job that a business analyst is expected to do. That's the job of a data scientist. So they are not supposed to know 100% statistics, but they should know enough statistics that, well, they can talk logically to a data scientist, right? So in my mind, business analysts are these bridge between the two important domains.
And I believe that is why during this course, we didn't go into the mathematics of it, but the application of these techniques in different problem areas.
Yes.
Was that fantastic?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. I mean, we were very clear that we don't want to teach statistics, right? I mean, that was very clear. Neither this is a out and out management course where we completely suppress the importance of data, right? That was not the important. That was not the focus. So I have had consulting presentations where the manager that I'm talking to gently tells me before the final presentation, hey, my CEO is not from data science background, so don't have any equations on the slide. So I have had that experiences, and once again, that was not the intention. We never shied away from putting up an equation where it was necessary, but the focus was not to get into the depth of that equation, right? Use whatever is necessary to solve the problem. That was the objective that we had taken in the course for all the topics. Well, hopefully we have done justice to that.
So adding to this conversation, so this works in the industry in the following way. So the students, when they join industry tomorrow, they'll be given a problem. And what is going to happen is the stakeholders are not going to give them all the data that is required for solving the particular problem. So what these students can do is to do a market research, understand what are the features or variables that could give us the optimal results. So first, after getting the data, so consider that as a sample data, do some analysis, and then do a market research on what more data can be added to increase the model accuracy or model performance. So that is how we do in the industry.
Correct. I mean, yeah, I'm expecting industry to be a little more mature about this, and I see that they are using the right approach. I agree with you.
Again, the key here is to ask the right questions.
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah, as I said, the topics that were chosen for the course, essentially, we were hoping that they drive important principles in this field, right? Marrying analytics to businesses, that was the principle. But I agree that we have not gone in depth, not deeper. That was not the intention, and therefore it was not done. But let me also tell you that more business focused analytics courses are coming. They are in the pipeline. Your online BSc program team is actively planning for it, and you should look forward to it. And hopefully you will see same team of Swaminathan, Jaimini, Malolan, Srivatsa in those courses also. So yes. They are coming, but hopefully this course has given you enough introduction to be motivated and to be interested in those electives. All right. Hopefully that has happened. Okay. So in general, now that you have been introduced to business analytics, how should you look forward to career in business analytics? Right. In my mind, I have always thought of managers to have two kind of jobs once they have analytics background. You will be required to manage a traditional firm using the analytics skills that you have built up. For example, a traditional firm like Indian Oil, right? The main business of Indian Oil is oil, right? It's not data. So how can I increase the effectiveness? How can I increase the profitability of the Indian oil business using the analytics skills that I have developed? Right, that may be one of the reasons that managers may get hired. The other important responsibilities is on the other end of the spectrum, where you will be asked to manage essentially data-driven businesses. Right, by data-driven businesses, I mean today's organizations like Google and Facebook and Amazon. Right. Facebook's main job, in my mind, once again, is not to connect person A with person B. Right, that has been happening, but how do they effectively manage data and essentially manage this network of people, right, or network of organizations on the internet? I mean, that's the business. So at the very core of it, I see data as the driving force for somebody like Facebook. I see data as a driving force for somebody like Google, right? Google cannot say that having a inbox on Gmail is their business. That's not their business, right? Their business is essentially data driven. I mean, the very first search algorithm, I mean, that Google was created with is a very important application of network analytics. So that's how I differentiate traditional businesses from these data-driven businesses. And analytics skills, I'm hoping, are important for both of these businesses, traditional businesses and the new age businesses, right? But having said that, now this is a question to all of you guys. So now can I say that every organization today is a data-driven organization? What do you think?
Actually, sir, I am a person who got converted from the industry through an academician. So when I look at this, as you said, there are two spectrums of industries, the traditional ones and the data-driven ones. I believe in modern times, all industries are actually moving towards being more data-driven. They are slowly coming out of this. That's why you see a lot of job profiles, maybe on LinkedIn or any other site, where they say, I want a business analyst, a data scientist, a data engineer, so on and so forth, all of these titles, right?
Yeah.
So I believe we are starting to move towards the spectrum of completely becoming data driven. But how much of that is possible? Maybe our friends from the industry, Jaimini and Swaminathan, can actually give a say on that. But how much is this possible for a company like Indian Oil or a company like any car manufacturer, Tata, Ford, let's say Tesla, anyone? How much can they actually move towards being completely data driven? That from a product kind of a perspective, from product industries, how can they become completely data driven? From the services, it becomes okay, but from a product perspective, that is maybe still a challenge. It will take more time. But everyone, like you said, everyone is now becoming data driven. They want data to support it. No manager is now willing to see a slide that says you have to improve business. They want you to show them how you want to improve business, what rate at which you have to improve business, what you are going into. So
So
yeah,
I,
so I believe
so I
I
just
do agree with that.
want to add one point here. Say in the traditional businesses, the traditional supply chains, initially we used to have a very simplified supply chain where a couple of players will be involved in. But nowadays, since the era of globalization, there's a lot of players involved. There are a lot of subcontracting, there are a lot of outsourcing, other things. So I think this data has helped to connect, to coordinate these supply chains in a more effective way. So now people sitting in say US can manage the business in India, or maybe the subcontracts through analytics, ERPs, those things. They help to organize the entire business, like putting together. And next part is like generally we talk like if the traditional businesses were actually if it is not supported by data, so we have a chance of more biasness. So we used to call in the history like we used to have a king who was very good, but once the king is gone, his son, who is the next king, that king will put his own bias on own kind of decisions, which is subjective to him. So that will actually make the life of people worse. So we don't expect a scenario where the business is hinged with the wisdom of the decision maker. So in that, this biasness can be reduced with the help of data. So we just don't make decision based on gut feeling or based on our own personal wisdom. It should be backed up by data. Then it be like we have a continuity maintained in this organization, and it
Yeah,
will
very
reduce the
rightly.
risk also.
Yeah, very rightly put. Very rightly put. Very rightly put. So coming from a person whose employer at some point of time had a name Royal in their name, right? So
Yes, exactly, sir. Exactly. So we are also now moving towards the data driven.
yeah,
We
yeah,
have
yeah.
core focus on data side.
Correct, correct. So yeah, yes, Jamie. Swami, you are saying something.
You're on mute.
Swami is on mute.
Swami, you are on mute.
Swami on
Swami.
mute.
Oh, sorry. So what is happening in the traditional business is the following. So right now, there are recommendations made to managers, but it is their decision whether to go with the data-driven decision or go with their intuition-based decision. So right now, what is happening is analytics team is providing them with recommendations, but they have their own experience, which is unmatchable. Nothing can match human experience. So therefore, right now, there is this mixed decision that is happening. So on one hand, recommendations come from data analyst and data scientist, and then there is this experienced team who is going to decide what to move forward with.
Yeah. And I mean that's what Gemini was alluding to, right? I mean we are not saying that all intuition based decisions are bad, but there is a possibility that there may be personal biases getting introduced because you are relying only on your intuition, right? So merging of the two, right? Have data support, and then based on your experience, you take a decision, right?
Sir, just one small inquiry from you over here. So we are telling that businesses are moving towards data, and that is what should be the case. But what will happen when you project something to data that is counterintuitive, and the person has experience and he is not willing to accept that fact? So that is a challenge, that is, or a roadblock in completely becoming data driven. So what would be a way forward in such scenarios if it's faced by anyone?
Okay. I mean, as an academician, I would always start by saying training. Train all your senior managers, sensitize them the importance of data science, right? I mean, there are so many sayings nowadays, right? I mean, data is never wrong. right? In God we trust, but please bring data. So I mean, these are essentially pointers towards people becoming more and more sensitive to why data is important, right? So I would say start by sensitizing everyone in the organization towards importance of data science, right? Start with that. However, there is always going to be this conflict between whether my experience is important or what your data is telling is important, right? I mean, I'm never ever going to say that experience is not important, right? As a person who has always studied data science, I will say that data science is very good. But that would what I say does not essentially mean that your experience is useless. So we have to find that sweet spot. Finding that sweet spot is not going to be easy. More and more intuitions that drive your decisions have to get into formal analysis, right? So that data science has looked at these things and still made a recommendation. That has to happen. So our data science algorithms have to become better. At the same time, the experienced managers also have to look at data science recommendations with some amount of curiosity and some amount of acceptability, if I can use that term.
Yes, sir. So then, for our students who are basically going to be business analysts in future, they should also have this caution that if they are doing something and some counterintuitive results are coming, they should also make sure that whatever they have done is correct or not, double checking. Because this is something that as analysts, we see the data, okay, this is what it is, it comes out, and we start projecting it out. So, but we should have that caution with us. So maybe our learners can also be focused on that. So before, even if you're presenting something, be cautious, though you have a data backing, they should be cautious about what they say and they should be sure on what they say.
Yes, absolutely. Agree with you. I mean, but you also have to look at the other argument, right? Somebody once pointed out to me that, if the car manufacturers had looked at the trend, the customer trends, right? They would have kept on making faster and more powerful cars, and nobody would have thought of electric cars, right? I mean, so I mean, you are saying a time series trend, and you are saying I'm completely looking at my data and therefore building my business. There has to be the disruptive thinking process that says, well, this is what data is saying, but I am saying something else. Well, that may that in many industries that has proved to be, I mean, really crucial in innovation. So yes, that has to be respected, right? Well, the question then to data scientists is, can that data science engine provide this disruptive ideas, which is right now creating the new wave of businesses, right? But yeah, I mean, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but we have to make sure that we are using every insight that we may get. That insight may come from our own experience. That insight may come from data. That insight may come from anything else, right? So somebody else's failure may teach me something. Everything has to be learned. All right. So then what is the purpose of analytics, right? Why should we be studying analytics? Why should we be applying analytics? Traditionally, analytics is classified as in four stages, right? To answer four important questions. Descriptive statistics tells us essentially what has happened. For that, I need analytics, right? What has just happened? Just to describe whatever has happened about that problem, right? Diagnostic analytics tells me why it has happened, right? By the way, these two questions have never told me how to go forward. It is only telling me what has happened in the past, right? So I'm still describing the past. We are not talking about the future yet. But as always, understanding the past helps me prepare for the future. Therefore, these two questions are important, and analytics does help in answering these questions. Now, predictive power of analytics can help us understand how to proceed, right? What is going to happen, right? What might happen in future. So that's what I was saying. Time series, look at the time series. This is what the time series is up to so far. Can I extrapolate the results and talk about what's going to happen next month, what's going to happen next quarter? So that is the predictive power of analytics. But once again, this is still devoid of any decisions. We are not taking any decisions. We are only saying, what if the same trend continues, what may happen? There is no intervention. The prescriptive power of analytics tells you what you should be doing, right? The prescriptive power is essentially, what should you do next? This is what is going to happen next if nothing is done, right? What you should do, what you should be doing, so that you achieve your objectives and whatever your objectives are, right? Analytics essentially should help us answer all the four, right? I need to take better decisions in future, but for that I must understand the past. Therefore, I must know what has happened, why it has happened. So those things are important. Often, I have seen even the practitioners of data science discounting descriptive statistics, right? Saying, this is trivial, right? But it gives you insights, right? It does tell you a lot of important pointers that you should be keeping in mind when you are taking decisions. I would argue against discounting even seemingly trivial things like descriptive statistics, right? Simply quoting mean, mode, median statistics, right? It does provide information, right? In my mind, nothing goes waste. Even simple things like descriptive statistics has a place. But these are the four questions that analytics answers. But I have always realized, I have always felt that analytics should not be for the sake of analytics, right? It's not a data exercise. The main purpose of analytics is essentially to make good decisions. And remember, we had emphasized on this point even when we spoke to Sandy. When he was talking about data visualization, he emphasized why data science, good data science should lead to good decision making. So the purpose of data science or purpose of analytics is not just to observe patterns or trends, but it is to make good decisions. Can my decision making capability be improved because I'm investing so much on analytics, right? So that should be the purpose. In my mind, a manager's job is to take good decisions. That's why they are hired. That's why they are paid whatever they are paid. And can this analytics capability help me take better decisions? Which is what we have been saying, right? What to do next can come from various sources, right? Your experience, what the competitor is doing, what my data is telling me, what my boss is telling me, right? All that should essentially is an input. The output is a decision, right? Unfortunately, the decision that I take is never never known to be good or bad decision, right? I have taken a decision. Hopefully, I have taken a decision with all the scientific methodology and no biases and all that, right? Whether that decision will prove to be a good decision, well, nobody knows, right? I mean, that's the uncertainty that is available in the environment always. That good intentions may lead to bad decisions, but we just don't know. Therefore, we have to make sure that whenever we are taking the decision, we are using all the capability, all the analytical capability that we have, and hopefully that decision turns out to be a good decision. This is a simple 2x2 matrix that I think can help us understand the role of analytics in decision making, right? Ideally, I want good analytics to lead to good decisions, right? And that's the ideal scenario. I do good data science. I provide good recommendations to the managers. Managers act on it. Those decisions turn out to be good decisions, and therefore that's the ideal cell, right? Now, if I'm able to reach good decisions even with bad analytics, right? Then the fundamental question is, do I really need analytics? I'm able to take good decisions even without using data science skills, right? Or maybe that I'm not doing data science correct, right? So the manager's intuition is beating analytics always. So probably there is some error in the statistical technique that you are using, right? So if bad analytics is leading to good decisions, you should be questioning the analytics team, right? Do you really need them? What are they there for? On the other hand, right? If your data science team is doing a good job, but your managers are still taking very bad decisions, then you should be questioning the managers, right? Are they listening to the data science team, right? Or more importantly, are they asking the correct questions to the data science team, right? Because apparently the data science team is doing a good job. We are still in this first row where there is good analytics available for the managers to take decisions on. Managers are taking bad decisions, therefore the question really should be on the managers, right? Are they paying attention to the recommendations made by the data science team, right? And obviously, very expectedly, if you do bad analytics, I'm hoping that it will lead to bad decisions, right? So that's your karma. There is nothing else. You have not invested in analytics team, and therefore you are taking bad decisions. So that's karma. So that's a quick link from analytics to decision making and back, right? Yeah, your thoughts on this?
Sir, as far as I'm concerned, this is a very interesting slide, especially the text that is highlighted in the red. If you look at these 4 pillars, these summarize the entire course. We started with the dashboarding, which covered the descriptive analytics. And then we moved towards the diagnostic analytics, especially the distributions lecture. So we analyzed why this is happening, why this data is following normal distribution or uniform distribution and so on. So we started with visualization, then a statistical test and so on. And then we moved on to predictive analytics, topics like logistic regression, multivariate regression, and so on. And finally, we did conjoint analysis where we're actually making a recommendation, which attribute is most important to the customer and so on. So we covered all these 4 pillars in a chronological order in this course. So that's what my finding is about.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't plan it that way, but looks like it has fit into the nice structure. Yes.
Sir, in fact, there's actually one more interesting fact here. When we look at when you look at topics like regression, right? So what we are doing a diagnostic and a predictive analytics there, because our regression model once fit, those coefficients are going to give us diagnostics about the data.
Yeah.
And we are then using some new data to predict our independent data.
Extrapolate, yeah.
So predictive. So these are techniques that not only fit in predictive analytics, but actually have that beautiful flow of giving us a diagnostics, then doing our predictive techniques.
True.
Right? Predictive prediction. So data science, most techniques in data science will actually have 2 or 3 overlaps that we have.
Yeah. A technique may not be focused only on one question. It may be covering multiple questions to answer. Yes, and that's how data science has evolved, right? I mean, now we are able to come up with good techniques that can help understand a lot of things at the same time, right? I mean, we should not be doing this for answering this question. We should not be doing this for answering this question. Time consuming, right? Yes, that's why I would always focus on good research in data science that can help answer a lot of questions at the same time, right? But once again, I mean, the question should be relevant to a manager, right? This is a course on business analytics. I have to focus on business part as well as the analytics part. So I would say every question that we ask must be relevant to the business. The answering capability must come from good analytics, right? That's where the explanatory capability comes from. That's where the prescriptive capability comes from. That's the good mathematics statistics part. All right. So the main, not only of the slide, but the main message that I wanted to convey was the purpose of analytics is to drive good decisions, right? We have said this at the very beginning of the course. We are making sure that we repeat this at the end of the course so that the message is not lost on anybody, right? Okay. Now the question, right? Completely different thought. Have the organizations really changed over the last century, 2 centuries, right? I mean, any time span that you look at. My honest answer is, well, they really have not, and they really should not, right? Remember Eli Goldratt's famous book. What is that book?
Goal.
Principle.
Exactly, Goal. What does the main character say in Goal, right? What is the single purpose for which an organization should exist?
Profit.
Exactly, to make profits.
Profit.
Organization should exist to make profits. If you are not agreeing, you are not running a good organization, right? You are not in the right business. So organization, the purpose of any business is to make profit, and therefore it is well not correct on anybody's part to expect the organization to change that goal, right? Goal of an organization should be to make money, right? So the core objectives, right? The core objectives have really not changed. Have not changed. Organizations are still interested in making more profit. They should be, right? Organizations should always be interested in making sure that they reach out to as many customers as they can. They are doing that, right? Organizations should always keep their employees happy. Some organizations have gone ahead and actually declared that employees are more important to me than the customers, right? We know that there is a famous Indian organization which famously said that once, right? So, for example, some of the organizations are making sure that if I don't have infrastructure, I cannot serve my employees, I cannot serve my customers. Therefore, securing my infrastructure is important. So their objectives are what they are, and I'm happy that they have not changed, right? But my argument is the decision process of achieving these objectives have changed, right? Earlier, most of these objectives were met with minimal of data mining or analytics. Now, most of these objectives are approached mainly from the data point of view, right? So earlier, these decisions were made. Earlier, these objectives were always thought about, right? Not that boards were board of directors were stupid 50 years ago. Not true, right? They were still trying to chase the same objectives. But the decision process was different. The decision process was different. We didn't have that kind of analytical skills. So my submission is organizations are still interested in the same thing that they were 60 years ago, 70 years ago. But now, because the decision process has changed, it is more analytics driven. Now, what the organizations are trying to do is they are trying to mimic those decision processes using analytics, right? That's my submission. So really, I mean, you look at every domain of management, the core principles have not changed that much, right? Whatever has been put up on the slide, right? Who will argue that no, since the advent of data science, my main purpose is to analyze data. My main purpose is not to make money, right? No organization will say that. So the goals have not changed, the objectives have not changed. The way we do it has changed, right? For example, if you take HR as a function, right? If you take HR as a function, I mean, this is an example. Let me give the. Let me be completely honest about it. This is not an example that I have thought about. I have heard it from somebody I respect quite a lot. So he always argued that, well, think of a shop, right? Think of a jewelry shop, and you are the owner of the jewelry shop. You have some 7 or 8 employees working for you, right? You were always interested in hiring the best people because you were going to hire only 7 or 8 people. This is a jewelry shop, so you wanted to make sure that the people that you are hiring are honest. They are not stealing jewelry from you, right? At the same time, if you are in the jewelry business, if you are those very skilled employee who can make this intricate jewelry, you don't want to lose that person. So you want to retain that person. You want to make sure that the person is happy in your shop, doesn't leave your shop, doesn't go to your competitor, right? So you are still interested in these things, right? What were your ways of achieving that? You used to hire from people you know. That will guarantee honesty, right? I know this person is good. I know the family. Yeah, they come from this. They come from my same village. We are from the same native place, right? That used to ensure honesty. Now, because of family ties, employee loyalty was kind of guaranteed, right? So my family knows their family and my family takes care of their family. We are anyway friends otherwise, right? So that used to guarantee loyalty, employee loyalty. And since I know the employee very well, hopefully I can keep the employee happy and keep the employee in my shop, right? So essentially, employer knew how to manage their employees, right? But this was a small shop which has only 7 people, 8 people. So most of the HR decisions were taken because of smaller scale, because of personal rapport with the family, because of family ties, right? I'm trying to describe a scenario which informally uses data. So I know, why do I know that the person is honest? I know the family, right? So I'm using some information, not in the data form, but some information I'm using. But now the scale at which the organization look at, the organization operates, it's completely different, right? And therefore, for example, to make sure that I get the employee with good skill set, I really cannot rely on my family ties. I have to rely on something like monster.com. I have to rely on naukri.com to search for employees who fit my skill set, right? LinkedIn has become a very important recruitment site, right? Employee profiling, right? Employee profiling cannot be left to these informal mechanisms. It has to be a very formal mechanism, which is what the new age organizations have achieved, right? Next is keeping the employee happy, right? For example, are they happy with me? So attendance analytics, performance analytics, right? Some organizations also scan what websites my employee is visiting, right? I am sitting in company X. My employee is constantly checking the website of company Y. I know something is wrong, right? All these things have to be done in an automated way. Cannot be relied on informal setups, right? Cannot be relied on informal setups. So these are all data-driven applications now to essentially do the same function that earlier businesses used to do, quite informally, quite intuitionally, right? So now what the discussion that I was having is essentially, are we replacing intuition with more scientific approach, right? Still same core principles, but now a more systematic data-driven approach, right? I have one more example. Employee turnover analytics, right? Will the employee go to my company, right? So what is their average duration of stay? I mean, I have been now told that coming out of the pandemic, apparently employee turnover is going to be a huge problem for many organizations, right? Now essentially my contention is we are still interested in the same decisions in this HR domain, but now we are relying on analytics to take all these decisions for us without relying on these informal intuitional networks, right? Thought process, your thoughts on this?
So actually, these management decisions, what I have understood from whatever you have explained. So in all the management decisions, we have two components. One is the science part, and is the art part. So it's like so something which people learns, or they have some inbuilt personality. Based on that, they will have the component. So with the analytics, we're just trying to make sure like that art part component is reduced, so that anybody, by learning that based on this decision sciences, they can make it decisions. It's not like a personal attribute is not a prominent factor in running the business.
Yes.
So yeah, that is like overall framework.
Correct. Going back to your king argument, you're not relying on the king to be the good-hearted king.
Yes.
Any king can manage the kingdom, right?
Exactly.
That's the argument. I agree with you. Completely.
So generally, we used to have school days itself. We used to see some shops, say like small restaurant, maybe a dhaba. So there, if the cook is good, then it will actually the business will boom. So once will happen, the cook runs away. Then actually the business fails down. We are trying to avoid that scenario, because the fortune of that restaurant should not be hinged on the cook only. So if I get a new cook also, he can maintain the same quality.
Correct. And this is not only, I mean, I have a slide here which talks about the HR function, but we can talk about even the marketing function, right? I mean, earlier, how were businesses managing their sales, right? I had a very dedicated, loyal set of customers. Look at this jewelry shop, right? They knew their neighborhood, they knew their potential customers, right? Generations after generations, people would buy from the same jewelry shop. I mean, for various reasons, right? Once again, because of family connections, probably because of the trust I have in them, saying that, well, I'm buying an expensive jewelry and I know that this shop will not cheat me. So once again, people were relying on informal networks to take these sales or marketing decisions, right? people were not worried about very diverse, Gemini mentioned it earlier, right? Supply chains spanning countries, spanning continents, smaller supply chains, direct selling to customers, right? That way the seller would know her customers, right? But now it's not true, right? I mean, I may be sitting in US and serving a customer in Europe somewhere, right? And how do I manage that? The only way to manage that is through analytics. So once again, I'm not changing the basic objective of the marketing function, but now I'm more and more relying on analytics to do the same thing, right? For example, customer identification and segmentation, right? Particularly where the customer is logging in from, right? IP addresses are tracked very actively to understand which geography the customer is logging in from. Their login credentials can be used to understand who this customer is, right? How frequently are they buying? Where are they logging in from? Which platform are they using, right? Their demographic data, and that helps me segment the customers, right? For example, IP addresses are very generally used to do the geographic segmentation of customers. Customer buying behavior, right? Their order history, their demographic data can help me. All these were, it's not that these were not done in traditional businesses, right? It's not that business owners were not doing this, right? I mean, Gemini pointed out, if I go to a restaurant and if I was a loyal customer of that restaurant would know what I'm going to order, right? That's because the owner knew me. But now you are removing that component, right? Even if the owner doesn't know me, she should know what I'm going to order, right? Now that has been replaced by a Swiggy, where Swiggy knows, right? If I log into Swiggy, Swiggy knows last 5 orders you have only ordered a burger. So I'm going to recommend a burger to you, right? So same point being made. Now we are talking about marketing, but the point is the same, right? Even customer retention, right? Earlier customer, I mean, one of my marketing colleagues in the department is retired now, but he used to always argue that customer loyalty is dead. There is nothing called customer loyalty anymore, right? If another competitor offers a price which is 5 rupees lesser than the price that I'm offering, the customer is going to switch. No questions asked. Probably the competitor decided to reduce the price by 5 rupees because she understood using analytics that this customer can be moved away from the competitor, right? But there are ways that you can retain the customer, very customized offers, right? You have been buying very often Ola telling me that if you take 5 rides with us, 6th ride has a discount, right? Those are efforts by businesses to retain a customer. Right, but Ola has to know that I am more likely to take that 6th ride discount by knowing me over a period of time, right? And the only way an organization like Ola knows me is not because the CEO is known to me. That never happens. Is only through my data, right? Is only through my activity on their app. What do I do? How frequently do I go there? Where am I using the Ola apps for, right? Ola apps for, right? So essentially, same traditional objectives being achieved through analytics. One more example, finance, same thing, right? Not that people were not lending money, people were not borrowing money, right? Even Shakespeare has written on what happens in a lender-buyer relationship, very famous, right? It's not that people were not lending and people were not buying, just that slightly less complex and therefore done mostly through personal relationships. But now I'm removing that personal component, right? Now using analytics, using mathematics, I'm able to first of all come up with very complex financial products, very financial derivatives, for example, options. Very complex financial products being created in the market, which were originally unheard of, right? You can talk about this bullet point in both ways. You can say, oh, only because of this really complex financial products, we got into the 2007-2008 financial situation, right? The financial problems, the meltdown. But you cannot deny the fact that analytics has actually helped us so much in innovation in the financial field, right? That is undisputed. That is really not contested by anyone. Yeah, as I said, financial product design, completely data driven. A lot of investment decisions are time critical now, right? I mean, the millisecond, microsecond matters, and therefore this whole rush towards locating my office closest to the stock market so that the information reaches me that much microsecond faster, and probably I can take trading decisions faster. And at that microsecond level, really, I cannot be relying on my boss to say, invest or don't invest, sell, don't sell. I am essentially relying on algorithmic trading, and there is really no alternative, right? If you are going at that level, really cannot be relying on human decision making. It has to be automated, and that's what market has done. I mean, it's not that we are professing something that this will happen in next 5 years. Already happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago, already happened, right? Yeah, and very complex and very open debt market, which essentially means that the lender doesn't have to know the borrower personally, no personal rapport required, right? Even analyzing the financial health of a firm has become a very complex activity, right? There are some portions of it which have to be data driven. The very fact that even the tax department uses analytics to decide whether you should get audited is an example that this activity is really complex now. This analyzing activity has become really complex now, right?
Sir, one point here.
Sure.
So 5 to 10 years ago, if we want to take a loan, so we have to go to the bank, approach the manager. So he will ask for our salary slip. Then there should be a guarantee. So the process was way too complex. So today, in milliseconds, we get the loan money that we want. So we also saw a slide that organizations have not changed much. But is the risk-seeking ability of organizations improved drastically? Your thoughts about this risk-seeking ability of the organizations?
Okay. Okay. Difficult question. I would actually argue that fundamentally things have not changed. Fundamentally, there were really aggressive lenders even 200 years ago. I'm not discounting those real explorers, those risk takers. But their decision process of deciding to lend me, even though they know that this was a risky proposition, right? That decision process was quite different, right? I mean, for example, all the Spanish explorers who went out on a voyage, their trips were funded by financiers, right? Their entire trip was actually covered, risk covered, right? The whole serious thought given to risk existed 250 years ago. That did not stop these Spanish explorers from taking out all those travels, right? But I mean, people understood even at that time that higher the risk, higher the rewards. So if this explorer goes out and finds out a new land where gold is located, why not? Let them go out. So I don't think the financial risk appetite has changed. The way we calculate or quantify risk, the way we design mitigation mechanisms for that higher risk, that has changed. Because now I have more options available, right? How to spread my risk around, I have more options available. Earlier, I mean, if the voyage goes bad, essentially some financier somewhere has gone bankrupt. But now the risk mitigation has become better because now there are more options available. But we cannot argue that people have now become suddenly more risk takers. That is not right.
True, sir.
People,
very true.
Yeah. I mean, people have been very aggressive even in past. People have now been very aggressive. Somebody like me is a risk-averse person, right? And I'm living in today's analytics world. I'm still a very risk-averse person, right? So if you look at my investment portfolio, you will realize, I mean, you don't need really descriptive statistics will tell you that I'm a risk-averse person. That's what I'm saying. You look at my portfolio, you actually don't need predictive prescriptive analytics to tell you that I'm a risk-averse person. Descriptive statistics will tell you that I'm a risk-averse person.
True, sir.
Okay. Lastly, looking at how operations as a domain has changed. Now, today's supply chains are more complex. We have spoken about it, right? Multiple suppliers, multiple geographies, multimodal logistics. that has presented its own complications, right? JIT Revolution, right? JIT Revolution has made wonders to this logistics business, right? Now the truck has to reach the factory 4 times in a day, exactly at the time when manufacturing needs it. That has put up a lot of, essentially a lot of optimization has come because of, by the way, JIT essentially means just in time. The philosophy came about 60, 70 years ago, right? But that has driven a lot of optimization in the logistics field. Yes, the number and criticality. Now, most of the machines, right? Earlier, you have always met one worker. I have met. I have been in a process industry. I have worked in a process industry before I got into analytics. So we would always have that worker who would just put his hand on the machine and say, this machine is going to fail in the next 3 days. Now we have removed all that. We have sensorized everything. We have put sensors on all machines that are tracking hundreds of parameters any given time. And therefore, this whole condition monitoring of equipment has gone from this touch and feel to completely dashboards and looking at monitors, right? That has changed the manufacturing shop floor quite a lot. This whole sensorization, right? Putting sensors, the whole IoT revolution, industrial IoT revolution. That is really has completely changed manufacturing business. The volume of the product produced, the variety of product produced has changed immensely, right? Now organizations could choose at some point of time that I will be a volume player or I will be a variety player. That option has gone away. Now you have to do both. You have to be at volume and at variety. And that has put a lot of complications on everything, on product design, on production processes, on delivery, on supply chain, right? This high volume, high variety business has been a major challenge, but using analytics, industry has been trying to solve that problem. And to a large extent, industry is doing quite well on this, right? So once again, we are not saying that only because I have analytics skills now, I will go and revolutionize the industry. Industry is already doing all this using analytics. Yes.
Sir, just a clarification here. So we have seen that HR and analytics, finance analytics, marketing analytics, operations analytics, and one thing that is very common in all of these is that word called complex. So because of the volume, because of the variety, because of the scale of operations, is this why we are now moving towards analytics-driven business? Because everywhere the comparison was between a small organization and how large organizations now require analytics, right? So
yes.
Is analytics primarily because of the scale of operations in which we have gone? That is what is driving. The scale is actually driving the analytics, which is actually now driving the business. Would that be a right representation of this?
Yes, absolutely true. Absolutely true. But let me also add that we should not then conclude that analytics should only be useful to large organizations, right? Today, analytics is useful even to small organizations. But as you said, why is analytics important? Analytics is important because of the keyword that you said, complexity. The complexity that the organizations operate under has gone up, right? And therefore, we need some kind of an engine that keeps telling us this is what is happening, this is what would happen, take these decisions, right? Can't rely on, once again, we should not be discounting the ingenuity of human beings. This is what has brought us to wherever we are right now. So human ingenuity, human innovation is definitely important. We must give credit to it. But we cannot keep on challenging our human brain. We will take the decision, right? Without analytics, can we not take these decisions? Yes, we can. Just that it will take time, it will take efforts to reach that decision. And probably by that time, the opportunity has already elapsed, right? So that may happen. And therefore, we need analytics. We definitely need it.
Yeah, and one more thing here, sir. So we have told that we have finance, HR, marketing, operations, but this is traditionally that we have in fact now moved into this era where all of these are there are only gray lines. right?
Yes.
We are having operations problems in finance, HR, and stuff like that. So so we are actually becoming cross-domain in terms of analytics, not just in one domain.
Yes.
So
yes.
that is also something that's very interesting is happening in the industry right now, I believe.
Exactly. But once again, I mean, I have compartmentalized this on in different domains because I wanted to have a slide on each of these. But the inter relationship always existed, right? I mean, look at Gemini's example. A good chef will make or break a restaurant, right? If that chef moves away, your business drops. Now, this is an employee problem impacting your sales, right? So you cannot classify this problem as an HR problem, or you cannot say that this is a marketing problem. This is both, right? So this existed even without analytics. This has now been magnified with analytics, right? Now with analytics, I'm able to take these cross-domain decisions better. But once again, not a new thing. People were taking these cross-functional decisions even before. Now I'm able to do that at scale. Now that I'm able to do it with complexity and faster. That's the argument. Okay. So good time to break this session and get into the new session. Because in the new session, I'm going to tell you about what the analytics has done to essentially formally solve these problems, right? Let us stop here and then carry forward in the next session, right?